So we want to work with a set of states and a set of districts who are willing to challenge the status quo. Yes. Dramatically higher standards, dramatically better assessments, comprehensive data systems, thinking very differently about teacher and principal quality, how we reward excellence, and how where things aren't working, we deal with that openly and honestly. We want to talk about struggling schools and where they're not making, not every school are more resources the answer. Many, many schools are getting better, and we need to support that. When schools continue to get worse year after year after year, we have to think about something very different. So on top of the $100 billion that we're putting out, we have an additional $5 billion fund, a race to the top fund. We're trying to reverse this race to the bottom and create a race to the top. And this $5 billion, we're going to work with a set of districts, a set of states that are willing to challenge the status quo in all of these areas and try and lead the country where we need to go. As we think about reauthorizing No Child Left Behind later in the year, we want to have a set of states, a set of innovative and creative districts who will step to the forefront and say, we want to get dramatically better, we want to build upon our current reform agenda and help lead the country where we need to go. And I would strongly encourage the city of New York and the state of New York to think about bringing in those dollars. Hundreds of millions of dollars that could come to this city, come to this state, if you're willing to challenge the status quo, ask the hard questions, deal with that brutal truth, and get dramatically better. Why is it so important that we challenge the status quo? It's because of why we're all here. The achievement gap is morally, educationally, socially, economically unacceptable. By any measure, huge gaps, 20% gaps between high school graduation rates, white students and children of color, similar gaps in college graduation rates, worse gaps, 8th grade results. That's not good enough for our country. That's not good enough for where we need to go. And so as Chancellor Klein said, more of the same is not going to get the kind of dramatic change that we need. And again, we have this moment of opportunity to do things differently. And let me be really, really clear. Money is a huge part of this answer, and we need every single one of those dollars, and we need to spend them absolutely wisely. But money alone is not the answer here. All of us have to think differently, we have to behave differently, and we have to interact differently with each other. And that, if we can couple that commitment and that intensity of focus with the resources, we have a chance to do it. And we have to challenge all of ourselves to do things in different ways. And let me start with ourselves as the Department of Education. When I was in Chicago and you received a call from Washington from the Department of Education, that wasn't a call you necessarily looked forward to. That was usually a call about an audit report or a compliance something, and it wasn't something that was going to make you better. So we're challenging ourselves. It's easy for me to talk about. It's much harder to do. We are challenging ourselves to think, can we at the Department of Education become the engine of innovation? Can we scale up what works? Can we invest in those things that we know are making a difference? There are so many great examples out there. I don't think I have to come up with too many great ideas, and frankly, I'm not that smart anyway. All the great ideas are out there already. And what we need to do is learn from them. We need to learn from them. We need to replicate them. We need to scale them up. And all the hard work that you guys and folks are doing around the country, our job is simply to shine a spotlight on that and help that grow. So we have to start with ourselves. We have to really challenge states to think about, do they have the political courage? And so much of this is about courage, not so much an intellectual battle, but a battle of courage. Can states be transparent in the data? And let me tell you what's going to happen. If we raise standards and we have real college-ready, career-ready standards, guess what's going to happen? Test scores are going to drop. Test scores are going to go down. And do folks have the political courage? Can we help support them so they can make those tough calls? And can they be transparent in their data? Can states tell you how many of their students not just are graduating, but going on to college? And not just going to college, but staying in there. Are they graduating? Many places we don't have that data. How can we not know that? How as a country can we not know that? Our job, K-12, is simply a starting point on the education journey, not an ending point. We have to follow our children all the way through. So states have to behave differently. I think big city mayors have to behave differently. And again, this might be a little controversial. I think in big cities, mayors should have control of the public schools, and not everyone here is going to agree with that. and let me take a minute to explain myself. And again, we're not always agreeing on everything, but I want to tell you the truth, and I want to tell you what I think. I think in big cities like Chicago, where I come from, like New York, like LA, The battles we are fighting and how far we have to go, we need the collective weight of the entire city behind this effort. And what I said in Chicago every single day was that if it was simply the Board of Education Chicago trying to get better, we couldn't do it. We needed the business community, we need the philanthropic community, we need parks and recreation, we need children and youth services, we need the nonprofits, we need the social service agencies, we need the religious community. All of us had to be in the game together. And there's no better place to lead that effort is from the top. And so again, not everyone's going to agree with that, but I think in big cities where there's so far to go, you have to have everybody on the same page pushing hard, because none of us have a dropout rate yet that is low enough. None of us yet have a graduation rate that is anywhere near acceptable. I was very proud that we had 7 years of declining dropout rates and increasing graduation rates in Chicago. But let me tell you, when I left, we were nowhere near where we should be. Nowhere near where we should be. Long, long journey to go, and you need everybody working hard together to get there. You need to have enlightened union leaders like Randy here to really challenge the status quo. And yes, her job is to help protect her members. That's a hugely important role. But she and other union leaders know in their heart that the best thing they can do for their members is to help do a great job of educating children. And so we all have to think differently. We all have to challenge that status quo. We need principals who can build a school culture where teachers want to be there. And it's a cliche, but there are no good schools without good principals. And it just doesn't exist. And where you have good principals, great teachers come, they stay, they work hard, they grow. Where you don't have good principals, that best talent in the world isn't going to stay. And so you have to push very, very hard there. Teachers have to be challenged. Teachers have to believe in their heart that every single child can learn. They have to have the highest of expectations. Not some children, not most children, but all children. And so we have to push very, very hard on that. Finally, parents have to step up. Parents have to turn those TVs off. Teachers can't do it alone. Principals can't do it alone. We have to look parents in the eye and really challenge them to be part of the solution. They have to be a full and equal partner in their children's education. And finally, we have to look at our children themselves and say, dropping out is not an option. The most powerful line, I thought, in the President's State of the Union speech is we talked about when students drop out, they're not just giving up on themselves, they're giving up on their country. And that is really, really true. And so we have to collectively help our young people know that there is nothing out there on the streets for them, that they are guaranteed a life of poverty and social failure if they walk away. So all of us, resources are important, but all of us have to think differently. We have to be self-critical. We have to stretch ourselves in some uncomfortable ways to get where we have to go. To close it out, open it up, that we know the economic imperative. We know why we have to do this. But the battle, as you guys all know in this room, the battle for quality education is the civil rights issue of our generation. It is a fight for social justice. It is a fight we have to win. I'll close with this. In 1966, Dr. King came to the west side of Chicago, North Lawndale, to point out the slum conditions there. And Taylor Branch's biography of him was just absolutely fascinating. Subsequent to his visit to point out the poverty and to point out the desolation in North Lawndale, billions of dollars came into the North Lawndale community. And jobs programs, anti-poverty programs. When I took over Chicago Public Schools in 2001, 35 years later, guess what? Every single school, every single child in North Lawndale was still desperately poor. 99%, 100% poverty. And so the question you have to ask is, after billions of dollars of investment, why was every child in that community desperately poor? And I think the simple answer is during those 35 years, the only thing that didn't change in North Lawndale and hasn't changed around our country was the quality of education. And then until you change the quality of education, you cannot eradicate poverty. And I told my staff every day that if a generation from now in North Lawndale, 95% of children are still poor, then we would have failed. We wouldn't have done our job. I was proud that we created 9 new schools in that community. We have a chance to do something dramatically different. But if we're serious about ending poverty, if we're serious about giving our children a chance to enter the mainstream and pursue the American dream, the only way to do it is quality education opportunities, preschool, K-12, and higher ed. And working collectively, we have a chance to do something this country has never done. I look forward to that fight together. Thank you so much.